So I'm going to tie a Willie Gunn in the flamethrower style. I hope the focus on the camera and the audio is okay. This is the first light tying video I've tried, so hopefully it'll go okay. So the hook I'm going to be using is the RX Progressive Double. This one's size 6. The thread I'm going to be using is Uni 80 white. So I'll begin by putting a bit of wax on my thread. Start maybe 4 mil or so behind the eye. For the tag and rib, I'm going to be using Vineyard wire. This is number 26, so I'll take a length of that, catch this in on top, bring our thread down the hook shank, keeping the thread wraps as close as possible. Take this down in line with the hook points approximately. So that's fine, and I'm going to give this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns. Come in between the hooks and underneath, just open up those hooks slightly. Catch the wire in, bring our thread back up to the midway point, pull the wire back down and bring our thread back down the shank. That's fine. The rear body is going to be gold holographic tinsel, so I'll just take a length of that, catch that in, bring our thread back up and make sure the first turn is nice and neat, concealing any thread, and in nice overlapping turns we're going to bring the tinsel back up the shank and catch in about there. Take our wire and maybe 3 or 4 turns of that is going to be sufficient. Catch that in. Bring our thread back up and stop about there. Trim away the waste. Bring our thread back down. So the first hackle is going to be yellow. In this case, the cape that I'm using is a Vineyard genetic hen. This one I've dyed golden yellow. So I'll take a nice long hackle. About that length I think is going to be fine. I like the hackle to extend to at least the hook points, maybe slightly beyond. So I'm just going to trim away some of these hackle fibers just so that we have less bulk when we tie in. Just like that. Catch that in. A couple of turns to secure that. Just trim away that cut end. Take our scissors and just run them along the leading edge, just to encourage the fibres back. I actually like to do that on both sides. Take our thread out of the way, lick the fingers, and stroke these fibres back just to get them to sit nicely. And I'm going to give this maybe 2 turns. Keeping the wraps as close as possible when we do this. Catch that in. And just strip away some of these fibres. And trim away. So, take our thread back down and just tidy up slightly. Next, we're going to go for the wing, and as everyone will know, this is a mixture of yellow, orange and black bucktail, and I've mixed in 3 strands of black crystal flash, so you don't have to stack this. I know a lot of people prefer this with a nice taper on it. I like to stack it because the overwing of fox is gonna create a bit of taper anyway. So pop that into the stacker. Give that a few taps. Take our bucktail now for length. This can be pretty much whatever you want it to be. I like to do this by eye. So I'll just measure that up. That looks okay to me. Catch that in, pinch and loop, just to secure the bucktail. Straighten those fibres up slightly. A couple more wraps just to tighten onto that. That looks fine. Take my scissors and just trim this bucktail into a taper. That's fine. Now I'm just going to apply a small drop of super glue to the thread, and as I wrap down, this will just soak into the bucktail and just make it that bit more secure. So we'll come down to about here. And I'm just going to catch in another bit of silver wire. Just cut that slightly. So again, I'm just going to catch this in on the side. And this time for the front body, you can use black floss, but I prefer to use the black holographic pencil. I think it's just that added bit of flash, I suppose. So catch in the length of that and bring our thread back up again. And back down. So take our crystal flash and making sure this first turn is nice and neat. I'm going to bring that up again in overlapping turns. To approximately this point. Catch that in. Take our wire. And again, 3 or 4 turns here is going to be sufficient. This is going to go to the 4th. And catch that in. I'm just going to trim away the excess and tidy up slightly. So next hackle, again this is a hen, and again it's vineyard. This one I've dyed a hot orange. So select the correct length here. I always select these by, it's something that I suppose just comes with practice, but I'm looking for this orange hackle to extend into the yellow. You don't have to be too exact, but I like it to come about maybe halfway in. So I'll just remove some of this fluff here. And just prepare the tip again by trimming the tie-in point. And catch that in. A couple of turns to secure and a couple back. Again, run the scissors up the leading edge and the other side. That's fine. Lick the fingers and stroke these fibers back. Now there's always a temptation with this pattern to wrap on too much, so I like to keep this to a minimum, because we're going to obviously have a black hackle on the front, so I'm going to give this, I think maybe two wraps will be perfect. And that's fine. Just making sure that these are wrapping nice and neatly, which they are. Catch that in, bring the stem out 45 degrees, and then I like to just catch these fibers and strip them away. And again, that just helps to reduce bulk when you're tying in the, securing in the hackle stock. Trim that away. And that looks okay. So next stage is the overwing. You can use Arctic Runner or Fox. I'm going to use Fox in this case. This is a mask, Fox mask, nice and mobile fibre. So I'm just going to select a nice bit here, and this looks okay. Cut away a length. I'm just going to pull some away, pull away some of these smaller fibers that I don't need to create bulk. And that looks okay. I'm going to leave some of these long yard hairs. They just help create that extra bit of taper. So for length here, you can have this shorter or longer than the bucktail, whatever you prefer. In this case, I'm just going to encourage that to sit nicely. In this case, I am going to have it pretty much the same length. Some of the guard hairs may be extending a bit beyond, so I'll just measure that up for length. And just trim that. Pinch and loop. Just catch that in place. A couple of turns just to secure that. And I'm going to put at this point I'm going to put a dab of super glue again on the thread just to secure these cut ends. What a lot of people do is they dab the cut ends and the super glue dries before they wrap the thread, and this can create a small step at the front. So I like to put the super glue on the thread like this. Put plenty on. And then when you wrap that over the cut ends, it'll soak in as you're pulling it into place. Just like that. And that's about perfect. Just get my finger here and just press some of this super glue down. It's too much. So that looks okay. Maybe slightly too much of the fox here, but it's a very mobile and thin material, so it does compress down a lot when it's in the water. It slims down quite a bit. So anyway, I'm happy enough with that profile. Next, I'm going to go for the front hackle. This one's a Metz. Again, it's hen. So I'll just select the correct length here. That one looks fine. Strip away the fluff. And again, just prepare the tip. And catch that in. Fold that back and secure it in place. Again, we take our scissors, run the scissors along the leading edge. You don't particularly have to do this, but when you do, it's worth it, as the hackle will just wrap that bit better. So lick the fingers, encourage the hackle fibers back. Take your time when you're doing this. The more attention you pay to this, the better the hackle's going to lie and it's going to sit for you. So one, two, let me just have a look at that. That looks okay. I might stretch to 3. I'll wrap this turn on, and if it's too much, I'll just come back. I think I'm going to be okay there with 3. So just catch that in. Pull that 45 degrees, strip away what we don't need here, and just catch that in and secure with a couple of wraps. Looks okay. Just take my toothbrush, sweep that through just to get everything sitting nicely. And that looks okay. So, lastly, I am going to put on some jungle cock here. So I'll start with my side. Just check the length of that. That looks okay. Catch that in. A couple of turns. Just put a bit of wax on my thread at this point. And your side. I like to just make sure these are the same length simply by looking at them from above. Catch it in, a couple of turns. check the length and just check how these are sitting. This one's maybe short. That's perfect. And just catch those stalks in, fold them back, and a couple of wraps just to secure that. Trim away. And that looks okay. So I'm just going to whip finish. Trim away, and I'm going to take my Glow Bright floss. This one is number 4, and I'm going to use this just to finish the head. I have in the past used just the standard red thread for the head, and it is nice, but I think the Glow Bright, the bright red, just adds as a nice, I suppose, trigger point, particularly when the hook fly's tied on the black hook, tied on the gold hook. I think the gold, you know, you can overkill the brightness of the fly. So with this black hook, yeah, I finish off with the Glow Bright red. So I'm just going to run that through the wax. And just catch that in on the front. And start wrapping back, stopping halfway up the head just to trim this away, so that no cut end is exposed when you wrap the rest of the head. It pays just to take your time at this point, because I personally think a nice head can make or break, certainly make a fly, and a bad head can obviously sort of spoil the look, if you like. So just take your time at this point, get the head how you want it to sit. Now that has slipped slightly, so I'm going to do that again. Bit more wax on the thread. Rarely goes perfectly on the first run, I find, when I'm using Glow Bright. So anyway, again, let's take your time here. Make sure the head is built up and looking nice and symmetrical. And that looks okay to me. So I'll come in with our whip finish tool, if I can find where I sat it. There it is. So once we've finished wrapping the head, dab on some super glue. I've just applied some here. Once that's dried in, I'll apply maybe 2 coats of varnish, and that is the fly complete. Excellent fly right the way through the season. Colours that you really can't go wrong with. So yeah, hope you like that. I hope it was of some use to someone. Thank you for watching.